like SIMV when you're giving someone spontaneous press. These little bars right here are kind of the range of where you've been. This is a real time, these little white tags give you real time numbers matching what's up here. So you can see the range of where your patient's been going. If you click on these little folder things, you can change under more settings your humidification type. So we can say HME for now because we don't have a heater. Up here, humidification type, HME. You'll always want to make sure that this matches whatever humidification type you're using because it will change your tidal volume. And you might be looking for, so we'll just do it as an example here. So we're on HME right now. Tidal volume set at 550, we're doing 548, totally fine. So I'm going to change it to a heated expiratory tube with 290 in our humidifier. So if I do that, and now up here it's going to say heated expiratory tube, we're losing volume here. Because the vent thinks that it's using a heated tube, but we're not really using that, so in turn you're losing like 50 cc's. So I've done this before, everybody has probably done it before at some point, where you set it up and you're like looking, you're like, why am I losing 50 cc's? You tighten everything up, and then you're like, oh yeah, humidifier.
How are you losing it?
Just because the setting is set for a heated expiratory tube, and just the type of humidifier changes the way the breath is given and calculated, I guess. So for HME, like if we go back, oh yeah, don't go to that screen. If we go back to HME, you'll see our volumes will come right back up.
So if the heater
So
was
just
there,
make
would
sure
it drop still?
No. So if you're using an HME, like at HUP, we always hook up a humidifier, but we don't always use it. So even if it's hooked up, but you're using the HME, just set it to HME. If you take the HME out of line, you turn the heater on, fill it with water, all that stuff, then switch it to a heated system. And you would switch that. Also under this button, just for future reference, you can disable the O2 sensor, which you probably never really want to do. And just another disconnect sensor. So usually you're not even going to touch this, but just so you know, we'll go there. Alright. Switching between modes. On the servo, people were like going into standby. Again, you cannot do that if you have a patient in real life. You can't put the vent in standby while it's attached to them, just to switch modes. So
No, seriously.
you can go AC to pressure control or VC plus. So we'll go pressure control. Flow trigger is fine. So here we go. We have our rate. This is your inspiratory time. Same thing as your PIP on the servo. So it says again above PEEP. So 15 above PEEP. So let's make it 20. This is your inspiratory time. So if you look at your bar graph here, now we have 1 second for our inspiratory time. So it's going to give inspiration over 1 second. So your IDE ratio is 1 to 3, 1 second to 3.29 seconds. If you were to make it longer, so say you want the person to stay at inspiration for 1.25 seconds, it's going to change your IDE ratio, right?
And that's based off the frequency of sun.
Yep. So yeah, if we were to change our rate, it's just going to change our IDE. Yep. So a lot of times your inspiratory time will be like 0.9 to 1 second. 0.9 is going to go in a lot faster. So all these look fine. This is your rise time percent. So if we, and again, nothing works until you hit accept. So we were still in the old mode the whole time we were just playing with that.
Can you go right back to the other one if you wanted to? I remember him showing.
Yeah, so you can hit previous setup, and then that's saying like this is our old setup, we can go back to that. So here we are in pressure control, decelerating waveform. So we have an I time of 1 second. So again, if we wanted to have a longer I time, just want to wait till it goes on the next page. So the difference between this inspiratory time and that one, everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shorter, longer. Okay. So why do we not have a set tidal volume and a
Pressure control and tidal volume back.
Okay. Good. Yeah, so there's no set volume, so it's not going to calculate anything for you. So all you have is your numbers up here.
That's just 20 plus 5 is
Mhm. And again, this might not always be 25. It's going to vary.
Just around there.
Yeah. All right, so for pressure support, spontaneous mode, go to mode, change it to spontaneous. Here's where you have the option for your mandatory breaths to either be pressure control, which we were just in pressure control, that's why I defaulted right here to this, or for volume control, so we're just going to put it in volume control. Pressure support, tube compensation, or volume support. Again, I don't really use tube compensation ever or volume support. It's mostly always pressure support. And then you can choose your flow trigger again. So, again, didn't accept it yet. So you can put our pressure support, we'll say like
And these
12.
are all the, if you give the manual inspiration, those are,
So this little bracket from here to here
yeah.
is going to be if you give them a manual breath.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that these aren't like wacky numbers. So before we had our patient on 550 and 60, so we'll just go right back to that because we know our patient can tolerate that. It's all great. So we'll put them on that. So then again, here's your E-sense that pops up and then your rise time. So this looks good, pressure support at 12. So now my spontaneous breaths are red. Up here, we have an S for spontaneous. The way you can tell what mode, right here it will say it, right? So here it says volume control, manual inspiration only. So if I give a breath,
Show your hands.
oh, what's wrong? Wrong one. So now I can give a breath, and that's given at 550 at 60 liters a minute. And then here's my pressure support breath, pressure support as well.
Now, how do you give it? So then, if you wanted to get a, you do
So
this
to
and
get
that.
a plateau in pressure support, you can actually hit this first because it's just waiting for you to do it, and then you kind of time it with the patient's breathing because you don't want to try to give them a breath, you know, when they're in the middle of taking their own breath or when they're exhaling because it's not going to work. You're not going to get it. So sometimes you'll just have to keep pressing it to try and time it with the patient, and that's normal. That's fine. So basically, you wait till they exhale, then give them a breath. It's going to give me my plateau pressure. Incomplete exhalation. Again, that's fine. A lot of times you can still document those numbers because you're just trending. Again, we didn't get a resistance because this needs to be to square.
So do you get,
And you would maybe come down on this. So a lot of times,
and then my nose.
if you have someone that's been on pressure support for a couple of days, you might see this constantly just left at square with a lower peak flow because if they're on pressure support for days and they're not really doing anything, like at Help We document plateau pressure every 4 hours. So if they're just hanging out there, you might as well just leave it and make your life easier. Not that it's hard to switch it, but that way it's just like that, yeah. So then again, you can just do inspiratory pause, manual breath. There's our plateau. So here's another thing when we click on the clipboard again. So here's our inspiratory time, so it's 0.9 seconds. That's what the patient's doing. Their Tobin index is 42, right? So about a minute. What's a good Tobin? What was it?
Less than what?
105.
Yeah. I thought it was 106 or something. The number keeps sticking in my head.
What is it?
Less than
105.
So this, since it is peak compensated, this will be 17, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just
So,
trying to remember.
yeah, so now we're at 18, 19, but
So if he gives us like the change of the delta P is like 15, then that should be 10. 15. That would be 15.
all right. We'll just go to NIV real fast. So this one, again, you don't have to turn it off and turn it back on, but in real life, when will you really be doing that? Not very often. Maybe if you extubate someone and you know that they're going to need to go right to non-invasive, but I mean, that might happen once in a blue moon. So you can either turn it off and set it up, or just do it this way. So you go to NIV. The difference between this and servo, I feel like doesn't give you any choices for type. Here you can go AC, SIV, or spontaneous. Just always pick spontaneous.
Wait, what would you do if you put spontaneous AC?
Yeah.
have a
If you
spontaneous.
put AC,
Yeah.
so then you could just put in like volume control settings and then like something like that.
Oh, never mind. Hold on.
I know what you're saying. So yeah, so we're in spontaneous. This would be applies to manual inspiration only. Tells you right there. Pressure support breaths. Okay, continue. Again, we haven't put them in the NIV. We're gonna change whatever. This looks great to me. So these again are only gonna be if you give somebody a mandatory breath. The D-sense is right here. Again, it tells you disconnect sensitivity off. So put that at like
What is that again?
50.
Oh,
So if it
Spontaneous.
if the if it becomes disconnected. So then another one that I know Jay didn't talk about,
Yeah,
but
what's
this, so the 3.3, so it tells you the high spontaneous inspiratory time limit. So like at HUP we usually set it to like 2 at the most. So basically, inspiratory time. So it's kind of, think of it as like an alarm. So basically if somebody's mask is like leaking a little bit and is trying to give them a breath for longer than whatever you set this at, so for longer than 2 seconds, it's going to realize that and cycle. So that's what that is. Other than that, I know, I actually used to turn the air on. I had it on earlier because I was like,
Yeah, it was
dying.
cold.
Oh. That big?
How do you do it?
Is it just like a start button?
Yeah, when I do it, alright.
So it's basically like if the circuit were to disconnect in some way. It's just like an alarm. Think of it like that. Because the vent, even on invasive, has like a built-in one that defaults to like 75%. Because if you look here, so that's always there. You can really never change that. Same thing now. All right. That's non-invasive. We can actually fit this. So once you put somebody in it, and spontaneous shows up, it's in yellow, and right here, that's in yellow. That's really your only clue, other than the fact that your patient has a mask on and not an easy tube or a drink. Alright. And again, if you wanted to go, this is going to take us back to, this is our previous settings then, right? Alright. Trying to think of anything else. Just like, yeah, volume alarm. So screen lock is here. Is it locked?
Why are they doing that? How do you unlock it once you do lock it?
Press the lock.
Well, you know.
Alright. Anybody have any questions about everything we just went over?
Not right now.
I will in 2 weeks when I have to do it.
So what I did before for the other couple people was like put orders on the board.
Yeah,
And
please.
then have you guys put them